Welcome to Fantasy Footy Fan, Jeff here. Thought I'd do a little round 2 review of AFL Fantasy and go through my trades, and how I went, what I'm looking at doing, some players to select, some players to trade, the usual thing. So as you can see, I didn't do too badly. 1837, not too bad. Would have preferred a better score than that, but I can't really complain because I actually jumped about 1,000 spots. So I was ranked 8,257 after round 1, and then went up by 1,000 spots. Now I'm ranked 7,243. So I've got to be happy with that. But now comes more the real tests, because we're getting into the early buys, and I know for myself I do have a few players on a few buys in the upcoming rounds, so obviously have to make that decision whether we trade some of these premiums or whether we keep them. This is uncharted territory, so we've never had early buys before, so we'll have to really see, I guess, how it all plays out and the strategies that we take. So first thing I wanted to have a chat about was the trades that I made. So as you can see there, I decided to trade out Jai Clark. He's got the role. He's playing in the midfield. He's getting decent minutes, but he's just not scoring. He's just not getting the ball. And I thought with Oliver Dempsey, the score that he got, the break even he had, I thought, yeah, maybe I'll spend that bit extra and get him. It looked like it worked out okay. I mean, his score wasn't great. It was 53. I mean, I guess it's not too bad, but he's still gonna get some cash for me, and I still think he'll be a good cash cow. He's a good player, like his role. I think he's got job security, but he'll at least make us some cash in the interim anyway. And of course, the other one I had to make was Connor Buderick. I took him out and I brought in D'Ambrosio, and that paid off. D'Ambrosio got a 96, so I'm really happy with that. And I'm pretty happy with my team, barring a few trades that I think I need to make. So, so my team's actually looking okay. I haven't obviously changed my buy players around. I'll get to that in a moment. But I decided to go again with Dacos VC into green, and that of course worked out. I mean, Dacos didn't actually do too well, and we'll get into that. But green got a 120, and that ended up being the highest score. She's got the 121, but green got a 120, second highest score in my team. So you got to be happy with that. When you choose the right captain. So we're going to go through now just some of the players' scores, players we can look to trade out, players we can look to trade in. I think a good place to start as well is the stats here in the stats center. And I like to start firstly with who are the main players being traded out and traded in. It is a Wednesday, so this will change tomorrow and Friday, but everyone's going for Tom Powell and D'Ambrosio, and that makes sense. Obviously their role, how they're scoring, so you got to be pretty happy with that. And of course their break even, so you got about 12k of teams bringing in Powell and D'Ambrosio. Fortunately, I've got D'Ambrosio, and my plan is to bring Tom Powell in this week as well. So I'll talk a little bit later about how I plan to bring him in. As far as the players we're trying to get rid of, of course, Alex Sexton, he hasn't really performed the way that we would have liked. So you got 19k of teams removing him, and he's got the bye. So it's just perfect timing to get rid of him. Of course, Nick Hoffield, really sad news about his shoulder reconstruction. And so you got about 11k teams bringing him out. I think everyone's a bit fed up with Newcomb and Young. They haven't been performing. And then the interesting one is you got 3k and 2k of teams removing Whitfield and green. So obviously going for that strategy of not having any buy players in your team. So I'm pretty happy with all of that. The other one I wanted to have a look at is the break evens as well. So if we have a look at the players we probably should be looking at, we've got these break evens. Harvey Thomas, he had a great game, 100 he scored in his last game, so he's got a break even of 23. He's only priced at 267, so he could actually be a pretty good rookie to get in. Obviously, we wouldn't be looking at it this week. But likely next week, if we want to bring in a rookie, he might be a good one to bring in. And then most of us have, Blake Howes, Matt Roberts. Chris Burgess is an interesting one. He's doing okay. He's averaging 51. It's not great, but he's got a break-even of -6, and he also has job security. So these are the players we should be looking at, these players that are low break-even. Some of these players, if you don't have, you really need to try to look into getting them in. But yeah, obviously with their price now, getting into the 300s for most of them, it becomes maybe, is it too expensive? Do we wait for the new crop of rookies to come in? So this is why it's so important to land the good rookies early on in those first couple of rounds. We really need to get onto them. So there are obviously a few players we'll be looking at getting in with the rooks, but then also we need to keep an eye on the players that have very high break evens. Wait till they bottom out and then see if we can bring them in. So you got Rowan Marshall. He scored only an 86 last week. He's averaging 102, which is all right, but he's lost 24k, and so, yeah, his BE is now 144. Dacos is the interesting one. We'll probably have a few maybe trading him out as well. He's got his buy in round 5 with his pretty poor score of 61, and his break-even's 143. He's lost 18k overall, and so it's not too bad as far as his price goes, but yeah, 143, you'd be looking at maybe trading him out and bringing him back in. It's just going to get tough to bring some of these players back in. Bond, I'm keeping an eye on Bond. He's lost 48k overall now, and his break even's 142. So as a non-owner, I'm pretty happy with that. I'll be looking at trying to get him in, and Oliver falls into that same basket as well. So he's lost 59k. His break even's 139, and he scored an 86 last week, and so his average is 96. So I think he'll get better though, as will Bont. Bont will get better. Bont's averaging 97, so well under. So I think these guys, if you don't own them, you're going to just look really carefully at their BEs and when they bottom out to bring them in. Oliver might be a good one to bring in after his buy in round 6. Tim English, you would say, 135 break even, but he's actually averaging 113. So is he value? A little bit. We do have to get him into our team at some point. Tim Taranto, it's actually not doing too bad. Sorry, I was looking at Andrew Brayshaw. Tim Taranto, yes, that's right. He's lost 122k. So he is dirt cheap for what he can do. He's only averaging 81. Oh, that's horrible. And he's got a break-even of 133. So we need to keep an eye on him, see when he bottoms out, so that we can look to bring him in if his form comes back. Then the other players, they start to sort of even out a little bit with their break-evens, and they're doing well. The break-evens game, I think, is a good game to play. I think most of us do that. You're also looking at not just rooks with the low break-evens, but, you're obviously looking at even some mid-prices as well. Obviously, Tom Powell's one that a few are looking to try to bring in. We'll see a bit of that this week. So looking at some of the other players, looking at the games really quickly, just some of the high and low scorers. Obviously, Wanganeen Malira is one to be looking at bringing in. He scored a 122. Jack Steele, 120. Great scores from both of them. They're great value, and I think you'd be looking, particularly if you're not happy with Hayden Young and you own him. So Hayden Young's averaging 85 at the moment. He's got a break even of 105. He's 798k, and if you're looking at Wangan and Malira, he's just a touch more at 834k now. He's got a break even of 83, so he might be better value. Might be one just to think about. Maybe if you're wanting to get off Young. But yeah, I think, and then Winhager, he was one that we were thinking about bringing in, but he's got a good role. I reckon with Brad Crouch now injured for 4 to 6 weeks, you'll have Winhager now playing more in the midfield. If we have a look at his CBAs, which I'm just bringing up now, you'll see that his CBAs have gone up. And that's because you've got Brad Crouch that's out. So yeah, he had 83% CBAs in this last round. So I actually think that he'll be playing midfield, and I think that he will continue to score well, hopefully around the 80s to 90s. So he's one to think about. He's only 580k. He's only gone up 10k as far as his season price goes. So he's actually pretty good value. So just one to keep in mind is Winhager. Riley Bonner, everyone brought him in. I mentioned previously that I just wasn't sure because of Sinclair not being in the team. Look, he's gone up 68k, and his last price change was an increase of 30k because of his break even. So, he's still got a break even of 37. So I think if you own him, you're probably holding, because he should make some cash. If he gets 64 this week, he goes up by another 24k. So, but again, I'm not sure, with Sinclair back in the team, and now with Crouch out, and I don't know, I just don't know what St Kilda's going to do with Bonner. So I'd be more confident with Bonner if Sinclair wasn't there. But yeah, so Sinclair's actually the other one. He only scored a 79, so let's just keep an eye out on him. He's got a break even of 127. He's lost 21k already, so let's see if he loses more, and maybe we can look to bring him in later. I've got to be pretty happy with Darcy Wilson. There's a fair few that own him, 55% of us, and break even of 4. So yeah, pretty happy with that. And then going to Collingwood, obviously Nick Dacos is the one. We already just spoke about him as well. So, what we do with him, I think, look, there's 54% owned. You might have a few that'll jump off and then try to bring him back. The only thing with Dacos is that his scoring's unpredictable at the moment because he's got a break even of 143, but who's to say he doesn't get like a 120, 130 and then, go from there. So, I don't know. Yeah, it's one of those ones that could, maybe could make or break your season if you trade him out or keep him in. We'll just, guess have to see how we go. I'm keeping him in. I've just got some other things in my team that I really want to sort out first before looking at that. So that's probably it for Collingwood. I think Finn McRae, just keep your eye on Finn McRae. So he's got a break even of 49, and he's lost 23k already, so that helps. But let's keep an eye out on his role, whether he lands in that best 22, because if he does, I think he'll be a decent scorer. So Adelaide and Geelong, obviously Dawson, he's just blitzing it at the moment. Had a huge game, scored a 131. And he's only owned by 18% of teams, but he's actually doing all right. 89 first round, not that great, but now round 2 a 131. And yeah, so he's lost he's lost 22k. So he could be one to look to bring in with a break even of 120. But yeah, he's doing all right. Matt Crouch. So Matt Crouch is the player I'm looking at trying to get in. I wanted to get him in last week, but I just felt like I really needed to fix Butterick, and I just wanted to shore up another cash cow before I moved on Crouch. But I just don't want to miss out on him. He's Adelaide's best player the last 2 games. He's already gone up 57k, but he's only at 791. So I think that's still really good value for a player that's averaging 111. And we know that he's just a ball magnet. He just keeps getting the pill. Got 110 points. He had 37 possessions. Like, that's massive. That's the Matt Crouch that we know. And I think that he'll continue to just stack up the numbers, I reckon. And definitely play with those piggish tendencies, I reckon. So I'm looking at getting him in. I know that many of you probably got him in last week, so well done for getting him in, because you would have benefited from that 110. So I'm hoping to bring him in this week and hopefully benefit from that. I'll mention my trades a little bit later. So Laird, yep, he's doing all right. Just quickly going through some of these relevant players. Chris Burgess got a 68. So he's now 247k, -6 break even. So if you're in need of a rookie, he actually might be an okay rookie to bring in. A 33 in the first round's not great, but a 68, he could end up being a slow burn. But if you're desperate for a cheap rookie, he might be an option. And I think that's probably it. And then for Geelong, Tom Stewart came back and did quite well in the end. So he's still a keeper. He has gone down, 5k. It's not much. 85 and a 114. So you can be pretty happy with that. And then now Dangerfield is injured. That helps Jai Clark with his role. Hopefully he still gets used in the midfield for those of you who still own him. Then Max Holmes got an 81. I don't know whether you're bringing him in, but if you started him, then you're pretty happy with that. Like, he's scored a 99 and an 81. He's gone up 29k, break even of 74. So hopefully he continues to make a little bit more money, and then you can upgrade from him. And then Oliver Dempsey is the other one I brought in last week. So I'm pretty happy with him. He's still a -1 break even. He made 49k just in the last week, and he's made 97k so far. So if you started with him, good on you for picking him. And he's averaging 72. So I actually think his score will average between that 60 to 70, hopefully closer to 70. But I'm pretty happy to own him. Is it too late to jump on? Well, look, 349, you got some of these rooks that are now in their 300s. Like, look at McKercher and Roberts. Like, they're in their 400s already. If you missed out on them, that's pretty tough, because they're fantastic cash cows. Even Jeremy Sharp as well. Dempsey, 350, maybe you could still jump on that, because he's still going to make a fair bit of money. I do like his role and his job security. I'm pretty confident with that. And then for the rest of Geelong, spoke about Jai Clark. So Manor, he's the other one. I think if you own him, you're keeping him, because he actually started last week, and he is a ball magnet. And he's a big scorer as well if he can just get some time on the ground. So he scored a 45 in 69% game time. He was playing, I don't know, different roles, bit in the midfield, bit half forward. You're probably not looking at bringing him in. He's got a break even of 10. He'll still make you cash. But if you got him, you're probably holding, I think, maybe one more week. North and Fremantle. So Tom Powell is the talking point here. We all know how good Sheasel is. Scored a 121. But Tom Powell and Tristan Sherry, they're the players that are really making us money at the moment. Most of you would have started, or some of you would have started with Sherry or brought in Sherry last week. Look, you can still bring him in. He's still value. He's averaging 112 and he's only 677k. And in the coming weeks, like if he gets his scores high again, he'll go up another 40, 50k. He'll get into the early 700s, and he's still value. Like, you could still pick him up next week. Like, he'll end up being around the price that Grundy is if you've got Grundy. So you may want to do a straight swap from Grundy to Sherry even next week. and Sherry's going to give you the same output as Grundy, maybe even more, and Grundy has his buy in round 5, so you wouldn't have to worry about that. So that's an option, whether you're trading Grundy out this week or next week. He's still owned by 44%, Brodie Grundy, but that will drop this week, I think. There'll be many going to either Sherry or other players. And then Tom Powell is the other one. So I love his role at the moment. He was a ball magnet as a junior and got a lot of the pill, had some really big scores, and he did all right for us as a rookie last year, but he's now being thrown into the midfield. And even last week, it was something like 93% CBAs, I think he had last week. So that's massive. And I think it looks like he's playing there permanently. Simkin came in the team last week, but he's playing more half forward. So he's already gone up 65k in price, but he's only 583. So I think if you're going to jump on, you jump on now. His break even's 25. So I think he is a good get. Is Tom Powell. George Wardlaw had a good game. I don't know if you're bringing him in, but he's only 583 as well. Break even of 44. He's averaging 82. So he's also, like Powell, he is in that midfield playing full-time mid. So he's doing okay. And he got a 98 last round, so that's pretty good. But LDU, so this is a concern, a little bit of a concern. He's averaging 97, so he's scoring okay, a 98 and a 96. He's lost 4k overall, so that's not too bad, but his break-even slowly creeping up. He's got a break-even of 107, and we're really hoping that this week he gets around that 100 mark. Otherwise, at his price, we've got to maybe look at moving him on to a better a player who's at least scoring over 100 at his price, I think. Like you look at Crouch, for example, who's still 791, and he's scoring 111, 112, whatever it is. So this is the thing. Like if you're spending in your high 800s for a player, you really want him to be averaging at least over 100, but preferably that 105 mark. And there are players out there like that. So here's one I'm going to have to keep an eye on. And then Zach Fisher, he got an 85, so he came back well. And I think that 85 to 90 mark is what he probably will average. So if you haven't traded him out, I would say he's a hold. We're pretty happy with, obviously, Colby McKercher. We don't need to talk about him. Toby Pink. I think some are bringing in Toby Pink because we're pretty desperate for defenders in the back line. He's only 231k. The only thing, though, is that 32 and a 49, here's a slow burn. You want some players that are going to be actually, getting more points. And as a key position defender, I can't see him scoring that much. Lazaro, I think if you didn't trade him out, you really got to trade him out now. He only scored a 49. He was subbed out. He's worth 324. So his break even's 19. So if you've got more urgent things to do, then you would look at that, because all he needs to do is score a 37 and he's gone up another 16k. But just unsure about his role. His job security's lessened a little bit now. So that's one to have a bit of a think about if you're an owner. And then with Fremantle, of course, Caleb Sarong. I guess there'll be many would be so happy with how he's going. He's averaging 143. Man, a 161 and a 125. Wow, that's just awesome, Caleb Sarong. You'd be pretty happy. I think if you're an owner, if you're bringing him in, you're spending a good mill to try to get him in. That's a big price to pay. Luke Jackson, he's continuing to do what we all hoped he would do. He's averaging 102. He's so far scored a 96 and a 108. He's made 28k, and that's what we kind of wanted. We wanted those 100 scores, and we wanted him to make a bit of money as well before we trade him out, before Sam Darcy comes back in the team. So his break even 76. So, could you bring him in? If you wanted to bring him in, sure, you still could at 793k, averaging 102. He's still a good get, good value, and he will be up until Darcy comes back. Jordan Clark is the other one who is also good value. He so far has scored a 97 and a 99. He's made 39k. His break even 65. He's averaging 98. So all the signs are there. He's only 730k. So if you want to jump on, I think he's definitely worth it. If you own him, you're happy with having him. But yeah, you could get him. I guess there's other players, maybe slightly better value, but I think he's still good value too. So I mentioned Hayden Young before. That's a bit of a 50-50 with him. Do you trade him out or do you keep him? For me, I'm holding for now. There was talk about him playing a run-with role with Dawson this week, on Dawson this week. And so, he did quite well when he played those roles towards the end of last year. So I'm hoping that he ends up having a better score. A 95 and a 75. We're hoping for better than that. His break-even's 105, but I'm just going to hold him for one more week, and hopefully he does well this week. Jeremy Sharp, good cash cow. Just spoke about him. Nat 5, so that was a bit of a bummer. He got subbed out, scored a 63, but he was doing so well. I don't know whether I'd be trading him out. I know some might be trading him out, but he's still got a break-even of 46. Longmuir's come out and said that he was subbed because he had a bit of back soreness, but he's fully fit, ready to go. I think he'll play a full game. I think also too, Fremantle were comfortably, I guess, in the lead and winning, so maybe they thought, well, yeah, a little bit of back soreness, let's just take care of him. But, he'll come back and he'll play, I think, high time and ground again this week. And he will, be in the middle, get the high CBAs. And I think he'll still be a good cash cow for us and still score well. Like, he's averaging 74. I mean, that's what we would like from him. If he can keep averaging 70 to 80, that would be great. He's already made 43k for us, and he'll make more money and score fairly well. So I think he is a keeper. Well, not a season keeper, but I think to hold on to for now. And then, let's see, we had a rookie, Josh Draper, but scored a 30, so not too interested in him. So moving on, again, I apologize if I've skipped any relevant players. I'm just trying to get through these as quick as I can. So moving on to the Hawthorn-Melbourne game. So James Sicily, he scored a 116, so he was back. He was playing a little bit more loose than what he played in round 1. So he's now scored a 30 and now a 116. So overall, he's lost 88k. And that is great for us because he's now dropped to 855. For those who don't own him, for those that own him, it's a bit tough, but at least you got that 116, and I think he might be back to that. His break-even's 126. So, he could go down further. I think he'd be one to look at bringing in the following week, maybe even for like Hayden Young. So I'm going to keep an eye out on him. He'll probably likely lose cash again. And might be a good pick when he bottoms out. D'Ambrosio, don't really need to talk about him. 20% owned. I think just bring him in. He's got a great role. He's getting a heap of the ball. He's averaging 95. He's only 550k. So, if you need someone in your defense, then I think he's still worth bringing in. And then going through Hawthorn's list, Carl Amon, I think. Is there many that own him? Just 2%, but yeah, it's not performing the way I would have liked. Jai Newcomb's disappointing. You'd be wanting to get off Newcomb. He is 9% owned, but that will drop. He's lost 61k, break even of 126. He's 781k. If you don't own Crouch, you just go straight to Crouch. And there's a few other players that are around that price point that you could just, or even trade down to, even Powell, for example. So that's probably it for Hawthorn. For Melbourne, so you've got, Petrarca, Gawn, Salem, all still doing well. So Oliver, he's another one I'm looking at for after his bye. So he's lost 59k. He's a 139 break even. I know I just spoke about him before, but he's now under a mil. He's going to continue to lose cash, but he's going to get better. He's still getting the pill. He got 23 possessions in this game, but he got over 30, I think, last week. So just keeping a close eye on him to bring him in at the right time. We're making good cash of Blake Howes, so really happy with that pick. He's still negative 13 break even, and he's already made 169k. Like, what a pick. Jack Billings, so he didn't do as well as we would have hoped. So he got a break even of 40 now. He only scored a 70, but that's okay. He still made 32k, and he'll make more money again this week. So you still hold and hope that he comes good. I guess he could still be value bringing him in. I mean, he's not scoring that 140 or whatever it was that he scored in round one. He's not doing that every week, but his scores might fluctuate a bit. Caleb Windsor got a 60. It's okay. Marty Hoare, if you own him, that's pretty tough. But he should have, because he got subbed out, but he should have some job security at least for this week, because I don't know if both May and Lever will play, and you got Bowie out. So I think at least for the next week, maybe even 2 weeks, he'll probably start. Sydney and Essendon, I think you got Goulden, so he's come back now with a vengeance after that round 0 score. So like, he's lost 63k still. But I think he's pretty much bottomed out now if you were looking at bringing him in. I know he's got his buy in round 5, but he's a 119 break even, and his last 2 scores were 111 and 117. So you could, maybe bring him in now, get him for this round and next round, and then he has his buy, and then trade him out or hold him. But yeah, he's back to just scoring good big numbers again. Isaac Heaney, he's been fantastic if you started with him. Look at his scores, 121, 125, 117. He's made 139k. He's now worth 861. His break even is 60. So yeah, he is great. Now, the issue is that Taylor Adams may come in this week or next week, and that may impact his score. So you have to keep an eye on that. Can you still bring him in this week? Look, you can, because his break-even's only 60. Sydney are playing, I think, Richmond, I think it is. So, Richmond's midfield is not the strongest at the moment, so he may have a big day out again. But just keep an eye on that Adams inclusion and see how that impacts Heaney. Then moving on, so we got Brodie Grundy, I mentioned before. I think his break-even's 81. He could still get that, I think, this week. He should get it. So he'll still put up a decent score, but he's starting to sort of max out a bit, and his buy's coming up as well. He probably hasn't performed as well as we would have liked. He did score that 118 in round 0, but then a 53 and a 90. We were hoping he'd get back to at least a 100-point average. And look, he may end up doing that from here on in, but I think there's probably better value at his price. Matt Roberts, won't really need to speak about him. He's just a great cash cow. Unfortunately, if you've missed out on him, it's a bit unfortunate. But yeah, as I said, he's made 184k, and he's still a negative 7 break even. James Jordan still doing what we need him to do. He's getting in the 70s there, 76, 78, 76 is his scores, and that's great. Happy with that. He's made 89k, break even of 37. He'll continue to make more money, and we may even end up looking at his buy and maybe upgrading him from there, or trading him out, because he's 543k at the moment. So yeah, we can weigh that up at the buy in round 5. Not really much else there for Sydney. For Essendon, Zach Merritt still being a gun. Nick Martin, that's a better score from Nick Martin. I don't plan on trading him. I know that some may have, traded him out. But yeah, I'm pretty happy so far. He's averaging 98. He's made 28k. He scored a 103 last week, like a 93 and a 103. I mean, yeah, he's not putting up the massive numbers that Matt Crouch is putting up, but I think if you own him, he's a hold. Yeah, if you're going to bring him in, you could bring him in, but he's got the role. He's got the role, and he's getting the pill as well. So he had 31 possessions last week. So he's got that role, a halfback, and he's getting the ball. I think he is a good pick, and will keep making money and keep scoring for us. Looking on with Essendon, I don't think there's really anyone else. You got Parrish coming in this week, so he's one to look at. But moving on to the Doggies and Gold Coast, I mentioned before about Bont. He's going to be a great pickup if you don't own him. If you do own him, look, I think you just have to hold. He's still a good player. Obviously English, he's just a gun. So Sam Darcy, that was a surprise. He scored an 88, but he's priced at 471. So yeah, his break even's 29. You may look at bringing him in. No one really owns him. I don't think anyone's looking at that. Sanders, as long as he can play and he doesn't get stubbed and Bevo doesn't do Bevo things, then he'll be great for us. A 78 for him. And it's probably about it. Gallagher, he continues to make us money. Pretty happy just to have him there. So he scored a 56. He's made 66k, -5 break even. Pretty happy with that. Nick Caulfield, of course, was the tough one if you owned Caulfield. He lost 27k. And obviously time to trade him out. He's dropped 24k overall, but you just obviously feel for the guy, and after everything he's been through, and hopefully he can come back next year fitter than ever, but definitely a trade out for us. Tuke Miller, I think you got the strategy there of whether you trade him out or hold him. Different strategies. Can't say yes or no to that one. Same with Green. As well, if you've only got a couple of these premiums, you may feel like, well, I can really get ahead of everyone else by bringing in a player who doesn't have the buy. It seems the teams that are actually doing quite well have been using that strategy, but also the Guns rookies kind of approach looks to be doing quite well too, because the rooks are actually scoring quite well. So Matt Rowell's in that boat. Anyone from Gold Coast really is in that boat, whether you trade them or keep them. So, Rowell, he's at a 64k increase overall, 21k last week. Break even's 91. I reckon probably his time to trade. He's averaging 110. So, I don't know. Could keep him or trade him, I guess. Sam Flanders, again, same boat. He's doing all right. Scored a 87. He's break even is 94. He's made 35k, but see, he's a forward, so he's going to be a keeper. He's averaging 99. I don't think you'd be trading him. I think you'd be holding him. And so Connor Buderick spoke about, even though he got a 61, I think you just got to move on from him. Alex Sexton's the other one, so I think that's it for him. He's made 88k, so that's great. But his break-even's 40. I think he's one that you could look to trade out this week, or at the very least, you could trade out next week. Or if you've got other things that are more pressing, you could hold him because he'll probably make a few more dollars when he comes back, and then you could trade him after that. So, but yeah, if you can definitely trade him out now. And that's probably, I think, it for that game. Richmond and Port Adelaide. I think, as I said, keep an eye out for Taranto till he bottoms out and he starts getting form, or picking up on his form. Seth Campbell, happy with him. He's made 113k now. His break even's only 2. So if you've started him, then yeah, he's a good cash cow to have had. He's only 313k. Look, it's a possibility to jump on. Remember, he does have his buy in round 6 as well, so to keep that in mind. And I think that's probably about it for Richmond. For Port Adelaide, so Zach Butters keeps getting it done. 107, 117. Really happy to have him. You're not bothering with price increases and stuff for these kinds of players. You just want him to average well, and he's averaging 112, so that's great. Same with Connor Rozee. He got a 116. What did he get the previous week? He got a 111, 116. So again, same as Butters, and they've got a really good run, Port Adelaide, their first few games. So I think their mids are going to do quite well. And then, like you see here, you've got Butters, Rozee, Drew, Farrell, Marshall, all scored hundreds against Richmond. I think, they've got Sydney, so I think Heaney should go pretty crazy, I think, in that game. Same with Goulden, for that matter. Houston's doing okay. So Ollie Wines is the one. I think there would have been a few that jumped off probably last week. I'm looking to jump off this week. He did score an 88, so he made 3K. So that's all right. But the thing is you got Horn Francis. He's out for another week, and he's due to come back probably next week. And I reckon when he comes back, that's going to impact Wine's score. I think now's the time to probably get off. I mean, he's got a break even of 81. If you needed to hold him, you probably could, but I'm actually planning to upgrade him to Crouch. And then looking at some of these other players at Port, there's no one really of interest for me. And then West Coast and GWS. And West Coast. So I'm really happy with Elliot Yeo now. I was really concerned after that 70 game, but he scored a 98, and that's really good. Happy with that. He's made 18k overall, and his break even 60. He's averaging 84 now, so I'm hoping he can keep that up. If he can average anywhere between 90 to 100, that would be awesome. But even 80 to 90, I'll take that as well, considering the price that he started at. Harley Reid, it looks like Harley Reid might end up being a bit of a slow burn. So that's a 55 and a 56 from him. Now, his break-even's 18, so you hold, and you wait till he maxes out, and then you downgrade him. He's obviously not scoring as well as we would have liked. But we still hold if we've got him. He's probably owned by most of us, so it's like 83% of the competition. So I would say you'd hold and wait till he makes his cash and then downgrade him. So that's probably it for West Coast. I mean, it was a nice surprise to see Harry Barnett play. He only scored a 29, went up by 4K. That's nice. I mean, he was there as the loophole. But if he can actually play more games, who knows? That might have been a nice surprise to just have him as a cash cow. But he's going to be probably, again, like I said, a slow burn, even if he does play. But that was all right. At least he made 4K. So we can see the GWS went nuts. You had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players that scored 100. Tom Green did his usual thing. Really happy with him. Lockie Whitfield, the same. He scored a 102. Green got a 120. But Harvey Thomas, so I mentioned him before, but I think he's one to just keep a lookout for next week. Maybe to drop down one of your rookies who might not be performing as well, or if you need to get a better rookie, because he's a negative 23 break even, and he's averaging 51, but he scored 100, and he looks really good. Just didn't play the best in his first game, but he's actually coming good now. He's played, so he got like an 18, 35, and now 100, and I think is that just a one-off, that 100? I don't know if there's no other good rookies when he's off his bubble, off his bye, then we'll I guess look at bringing him in. He's only 267k, so that's still rookie priced, so just keep him in mind. And yeah, Himmelberg's been disappointing. Really thought that he would do a lot better. Cadman, I guess if you got him, he did well, 68. He's a good cash cow if you own him. So that's all the players to just keep in mind and consider, and players to trade out. We got to get our rookies right. That's really important. We got to also look out for our underperforming premiums to move off them before they really drop, and try and get onto those players who have got the role. Like you look at a Tom Powell, for example, he's got the role, that midfield role, and we know that he's a ball magnet from his his days as a junior and now coming into playing in the midfield. We know he's going to get a lot of the ball. So it's players like that we just need to look out for. Moving on now, I guess what I'm going to need to do for my team, I've got Green in my team, so obviously Green will come out and I'll bring in Jeremy Sharp, and I think who else? So I've got Sexton out, but I don't think I'm trading Sexton, so I'll probably have to bring in Wilson, and I'll bring Harvey Gallagher as my emergency. Or I guess I've got Seth Campbell as well. But Darcy Wilson will be a good replacement for Sexton. And so that's pretty much it. They're the only two players that I've really had to move off. I can't see anyone else. So that's good. Just the one premium. All right, well, that's nice. And I've got Zach Williams. So what I might do with that, and this is where we need to look at the option of loopholing, especially players off the bench. So I've got, So I've got Williams. Now I might look at keeping Williams on the bench and loophole him. So he plays Friday afternoon, 4:20. So by the end of his game, I'll know if he's obviously done well or not. And you got Howes who's averaging 73. If Williams gets a great score, I can just bring on Reed and loophole Williams on the ground. So I might actually do that. It's possible too that I don't know if I'll do that for Harley Reid. I think Roberts, McKercher, Sanders, I think will comfortably outscore him. And West Coast have the Western Bulldogs. I believe that's probably at Marvel as well. So so I won't be loopholing him. And then my forward line, I might just keep that the way that it is. So my trades, so this is what I plan on doing. I will be trading Grundy, and I feel he's just kind of maxed out. The options to trade Sherry in, but I'm going to hold off on that. And I would rather, so I'm going to swap for Jackson in there, and I would rather bring in Tom Powell. So that'll be my first trade. And then my second trade I'm going to bring in is, as I mentioned earlier, I want to get out Ollie Wines. I want to get out Matt Crouch because I'm just so impressed with how he's playing. To be perfectly honest, I should have just started with him, really. I did have Crouch in my team, and then I think at the last minute I changed him to Wines because I'd heard that news about Wines playing exclusively in the midfield. And I don't know why I changed that. It was just a silly move by me. But anyway, I've got that back now. It cost me an extra 100k, but I think I don't know, it's not worth it. It is worth it now, but it's 100k I could have avoided. But I'm pretty happy now with how that looks. Having Crouch there, so I've got the two really good mid prices. Davies Uniacke I'm going to have a look at, and then for my vice captain and captain, we've got a few good ones this round. Obviously, for my team, I probably plan on probably having Heaney as my captain, and because he plays on the Sunday against Richmond, and I think he'll do quite well, but I'm not confident on Dacos. just think after that last game, I'm not sure. Harry Sheezel's actually doing all right, and he plays on the Friday. And he scored 120 and 121, and he's playing against Carlton. So I think the ball will be in North's defence quite a bit. So maybe I'll go Sheezel into Heaney, but I've got to also consider Butters as well. So haven't fully decided on that as yet, but I think in the Brisbane Collingwood game, you're looking at to captain. You could go Dunkley Neal, I guess. Dacos is the one, but I think for GWS and we're talking about North Melbourne and Carlton. I think you obviously got a few options there. Sheezel is definitely one that you could probably go with, I think, as a VC. For Carlton, I can't think of anyone coming to mind for Carlton. And actually, I might let's have a look here. So yeah, no one really for Carlton I can think of. For Fremantle, then obviously there is Sarong. If you've got Sarong, he's definitely the one that you'd want to VC or C. For Adelaide, you'd be looking at probably a Laird or a Dawson in that game. For Essendon and St Kilda, obviously Merritt, he'd be the only one to consider. St Kilda, probably Jack Steele. If you're wanting to go with someone in that game. For Port Adelaide, you're probably looking at Butters or even Rosé, but I would probably say Butters. And then for Melbourne, if you've got Petrarca, he would probably be one to consider. For the Doggies, this is where it's at. They're playing West Coast, I think, at Marvel. But yeah, if you've got Bond or if you've got English, then that's it. That's all you need to worry about. They will be your captain. If you're VCing as Sheezel or VCing, Sarong or something, you would want them as a minimum to get 120, 125, because you'd expect Bond and English to go nuts on West Coast, and we're looking at 130 scores, I reckon, between them potentially, even though Bond hasn't been in the best of fantasy form, averaging 97, but I think in this game you'd expect them both to just go nuts. Richmond and Sydney, there's no one really from Richmond, but for Sydney, you could consider a Goulden because he's back in good form, and even a Heaney, of course, as well. And then the last game of the round, you got Hawthorn Geelong. There's no one really, I think, to consider in either of those games. No big high scorers. But yeah, so there's a few there that we can consider for captain and vice captain. So hopefully you have a really good fantasy round this round. We're looking still, remember, got to get your rookies right, because that's how we are successful in AFL fantasy. So make sure you get those rookies that are going to make us lots of cash. Just stick fat with some of your premiums. We've got some that have dropped off a little bit. Think about, we tend to be a bit reactionary. One bad game and it's like, let's quickly trade. So, you got like a Goulden who's come back really well, and you've got some other players who have done the same. So keep all of that into consideration. Hopefully this has been of help to your team and how you're going to go about making your trades. As we always say in AFL fantasy, it's not a starting team game, it's a trading game. So it's all about your trades and how you trade. And so make sure you land those right trades, which is important in these early rounds as well. So thanks for watching or for listening, really appreciate it, and I'll catch you next week. See ya.